She was one of America's most recognizable icons, a woman whose smile lit up screens around the world. But behind the glamour and bright lights, her life was far from easy. Born into instability, she grew up with abandonment and loneliness. From an early age, she learned to perform not just on stage, but in life. Fame came quickly, and with it, immense pressure. She was expected to be perfect, cheerful, and admired, yet emotionally, she was often alone. Anxiety, insomnia, and depression were constant companions. Marilyn turned to doctors for help, but mental health care in her time was limited. She struggled quietly, balancing the world's expectations with her own pain. Her death shocked the world, not because she was unknown, but because someone so famous could feel so isolated. Today, her story is more than glamour. It reminds us that success doesn't protect against suffering, and that even the brightest smiles can hide the deepest struggles. There was a man who could turn sadness into laughter with a single sentence. A performer whose energy felt limitless, voices changing, characters exploding to life, humor pouring out like a waterfall. He wasn't just funny. He was comforting. He played teachers who inspired us, fathers who protected us, friends who reminded us it was okay to be different. For decades, he made the world lighter, especially for people who were hurting. But what most didn't know was that behind the laughter, he was fighting something much heavier. As time passed, depression tightened its grip, and a serious neurological illness slowly took away pieces of who he was. The man who brought joy to millions was quietly losing his own. In 2014, the world stopped. The loss of this beloved comedian and actor shocked everyone, because he seemed like the happiest person in the room. His story left us with a powerful truth. The loudest laughter can hide the deepest pain. And his legacy reminds us to be kinder, to listen more, and to never assume someone is okay just because they make us smile. He was a soft-spoken artist with a loud sound, someone who turned confusion, anger, and loneliness into music that shook the world. From a small-town beginning, he rose to lead a band that didn't just make songs, it defined a generation. His voice cracked, his guitar screamed, and millions of young people felt seen for the first time. He never tried to be a hero, he just told the truth as he felt it. But success arrived faster than peace. Behind the fame were constant battles, emotional pain, physical illness, addiction, and the crushing weight of expectations. Being called the voice of a generation became a burden he couldn't escape. The stages got bigger, but his world felt smaller. In the mid-1990s, everything went silent. At only 27, the artist was gone, leaving unfinished songs, unanswered questions, and a legacy frozen in time. His passing placed him among a haunting group of young legends who left too soon. What remains is the message his life quietly taught us. Creativity can heal others, while the creator is still hurting. And sometimes, the people who help us survive are fighting just to survive themselves. He made millions smile, but no one saw his pain. He was a man who traveled the world with a curious mind and a fearless appetite. A chef who didn't just explore food, but the stories, cultures, and people behind it. He shared meals in crowded streets and quiet homes, speaking with honesty and respect. Through his voice, food became a language, one that connected strangers across borders and beliefs. To the world, he looked fulfilled, grounded, alive. But behind the calm presence and sharp storytelling were silent battles. Years of emotional weight, exhaustion, and inner darkness followed him from place to place. Constant movement left little room to rest, not just physically, but mentally. In 2018, while far from home, his journey came to a sudden and heartbreaking end. The loss shocked millions, because he seemed like someone who truly understood life. His story leaves us with a quiet truth. You can explore the entire world, and still feel lost inside yourself. And sometimes, the people who help us feel connected are fighting loneliness we never see. She was born on December 24, 1962, in the heart of America, raised with quiet ambition and a sharp eye for beauty. Years later, she would turn simplicity into joy, bright colors, clean lines, playful elegance. Her work made people smile. It felt light, optimistic, almost effortless. She built an empire around happiness, especially for women who wanted confidence without shouting. Yet behind the cheerful designs was a woman who carried her emotions inward, rarely letting the world see the weight she felt. After stepping away from the brand that made her famous, life slowed, but the silence grew louder. Struggles with mental health, long kept private, deepened over time. To many, she seemed to have everything. To herself, peace was harder to find. On June 5, 2018, the world woke up to the loss of a creative soul whose pain had gone unseen. Her story reminds us of a truth we often forget. A joyful exterior doesn't guarantee an untroubled mind. And sometimes, the brightest creations come from the quietest battles.
She was born in the early 1920s, one of many young women trying to find her place in a fast-moving New York City. To the people around her, she seemed quiet, reserved, ordinary. No one imagined her story would echo far beyond her lifetime. One morning in 1947, she checked into a hotel, left behind a brief apology meant for those she loved, and made her way to a towering landmark that defined the city's skyline. From high above the streets, she stepped into history. Below, her body came to rest in a way that stunned witnesses, still, composed, almost serene. A young photography student nearby raised his camera, unaware that a single click would freeze a moment the world would never forget. The image spread rapidly, admired and questioned, turning tragedy into something unsettlingly iconic. But beyond the photograph was not an image, not a headline, just a person who felt overwhelmed by life. Her story reminds us that pain is often invisible, and that noticing one another might matter more than we ever realize. This single gunshot killed over 20 million people. It didn't happen on a battlefield. It happened on a city street, during a parade. In 1914, Europe was a powder keg. Empires were competing for power. Alliances were locked and ready. One spark was enough. That morning, a royal motorcade drove through Sarajevo. An earlier attack failed. The danger was supposed to be over. Then the convoy made a wrong turn. The car stopped, right in front of a young nationalist, holding a pistol. 2 shots were fired, at point-blank range. And within minutes, the future of Europe was dead. Blame spread fast. Ultimatums were issued. Alliances activated like dominoes. And the world plunged into war. That war reshaped borders, destroyed empires, and created the conditions for an even deadlier conflict. One decision, one street, one moment.
He was born in 1908 in a small Welsh town, raised in the shadows of the stage. Theater wasn't just around him, it was in his blood. By the time he was a young man, tragedy had already found him, taking his mother and leaving behind a quiet, restless ambition. He crossed the ocean with dreams larger than his suitcase, and before long, Broadway noticed. Critics praised his presence, his voice, his promise. Hollywood soon followed, offering contracts and the illusion of permanence. For a moment, it seemed the dream was real. But the dream was fragile. The Great Depression tightened its grip, studios turned cold, and roles disappeared. Isolation grew louder than applause. Success felt close, yet unreachable. In 1932, at just 24 years old, he climbed a towering sign overlooking Lowe's Angels, one meant to sell dreams, and stepped into history. The fall ended his life, but not his story. Only then did fame arrive. He became a symbol of Hollywood's cruel paradox. that sometimes the spotlight shines brightest only after the curtain has fallen.